let's talk about a homework problem from section 4.5. They want us to find an equation for the given graph over here. I want to read the directions thoroughly to make sure I can follow what they're asking for. Same for you. So type the equation of the given graph in the form of either y equals a sine of bx or y is equal to a cosine of bx. Now, they have made our lives just a little bit easier by it's not bx plus c or plus d on the outside, which adds a whole nother dynamic to the situation. So, two things we have to find. We have to find the amplitude, which is a, and we have to find the period, which is going to be, well, the period is 2 pi over b, right, for a equals sine of x and cosine of x. But let's do the easier one first. We're talking about the amplitude. So remember, the amplitude is how high or how low the graph goes from the center line. So we're talking about the center line happens to be the x-axis, and that means we don't have a d value where you add and move everything up or move everything down. And I noticed that the highest it goes is up here to 2, and the lowest it goes is down here, 3, my bad, I'm not looking at this, and I even have my glasses on, I'm sorry, down here at -3, so 3 and -3. So this means my a value is 3. My amplitude is actually the absolute value of 3, but notice the graph starts up first, and at the origin, right there, it starts on the axis. That tells me this is a sine graph, would be the easiest way to write it. Now, it could even be a cosine graph if we were able to shift left or right, but this graph hasn't shifted left or right because, again, there is no c value, which means there's no phase shift, and there is no d value, which means there's no movement up or down, which is a vertical transformation up or down. And the reason I know it doesn't have that is because it says we just have an A and a B we have to find, and it doesn't have plus C or plus D in there. Does that make sense? I'm kind of talking all over the place. Okay, so we don't have to worry about a C or a D, which means this hasn't been shifted left, right, or up and down. And since it hasn't been moved that way, that means since we're starting on the origin, that's a sine graph. Okay, so I know two things now. I know my A is 3, and this is a sine graph. Now, the hardest part is definitely the period. Now, the period is in what length does the graph repeat itself. Okay, so if I start, let's just say right here, and I do an up and a down back where I started. You have to do both an up and a down back where you started, and look at that distance. So I'm going from 0 to 4, right? So that's my period. My period, okay, is 4 units long because I'm going from 0 to 4. If I was going from, say, -1 to 4, it would be 5 units. Or if I was going from 2 to 4, it would just be 2 units. But since I'm going from 0 all the way to 4, my period is 4 units long. Now, the real question is how do you find B? So you remember the period for sine, the definition is 2 pi over b. So that is your period for sine and cosine. It's always 2 pi over b. Well, we know the period is 4, so how about this? Go to the bottom of the page. 4 is equal to 2 pi over b, and I'm really trying to find b to plug into my formula, right? So I'm going to solve this dude for b. So let's cross multiply, or better yet, it's easier to say just multiply both sides by b, because I can't solve for it when it's in the denominator. All right, that gives me on the left side, instead of writing b4, I'm going to write it as 4b equals 2 pi. Still trying to solve for b, so I'm going to divide both sides by 4. Divide by 4, divide by 4. The 4's cancel, and now I have my b value. My b value is 2 pi over 4, which reduces to pi over 2. So all the things that we know to fill in this equation is we know it's a sine graph, we know the amplitude is 3, and we know the period b is pi over 2. Now, I can't type in on this picture. This is just a PowerPoint slide, but my final answer should be y is equal to, my a is 3, sine of pi over 2x. Okay, so we've got everything in there we need. We have the amplitude, which is how high and how low it goes. We've got that it's a sine graph and not a cosine because it started on the origin instead of off the origin. And the hardest part is calculating the b value. And to do that, you first have to find the period from looking at the graph. And it repeats itself in 4 units. It started at 0, it went to 4, so it repeats itself every 4 units. And then set that period equal to 2 pi over b and solve that equation. So I set, here's the important part right here, 4 equal to 2 pi over b, multiply both sides by b, divide both sides by 4, and then you've got your pi over 2. Hey, I'm glad to help. I hope this helps. If you type it in and get it wrong, let me know. Maybe I've overlooked something. If you have another one you need me to look at, I will be glad to. Have a great day.